Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Sean here with BlueRidgeSilverhound, and we're going to talk about the Pocket Change Market Report, this time for January 30th, 2022. Now, you didn't really think we were going to go a whole weekend without one of these. Now, I was out for a few days, but we're back. Sunday night is better than no night, that's for sure, and considering that this is the last one for the month of January, boy, did that escalate quickly, huh? Month of January came and went very fast. The market still strong. We're seeing brand new 2022 coins dip into circulation right now. We have reported sales of bank boxes, which we will talk about in this video, along with a host of other various errors and varieties that you can find in the wild today. Now, the obvious way to find these is going to be going through big batches of pocket change, going to the bank, obtaining bank rolls, things like that. That's going to be your bread and butter in order to find a lot of these. Now, there's going to also be some coins, some of the older stuff, or maybe some of the stuff that you wouldn't think would come out of circulation that you're going to be able to cherry pick, either going and scouring through eBay. Great way to do that. Picking something up on the cheap, buying something at like 2 a.m. when everybody else is asleep is a great way to add to your collection at an affordable price. But also, cherry picking your local coin shop or show is another fantastic way of really taking advantage of what this hobby has to offer. We're going to take a look at the best of the best for today. And the next report will be in February. Exciting stuff. We're going to be diving right into February activity very quick. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be looking at a lot more 2022 coin errors and varieties that we could really sink our teeth into. As you guys know, 2021 was kind of a beacon year for a lot of really awesome finds. Lots of very valuable stuff. I'm a true testament to that. I found my fair share of incredibly insane finds on 2021 coins, and I would assume that 2022 would certainly fall under that same umbrella as well. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right in. Again, these are all sales from the last 24 to 48 hours. All of the seller images are raw, all right, which means you're going to get the best of what that listing has to offer, whether it's out of focus pictures, whether they're just wildly good photos, along with some other stuff. But at the same time, as we do this report week in and week out, you'll pick up a few tips on how to, fine tune your photography, kind of like do's and don'ts, that sort of thing. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the first coin. Now, this one, boy, oh boy, this one you could easily overlook without batting an eye. It's 1984 Lincoln Memorial Cent. At first glance, you wouldn't think there'd be anything really cool here. It doesn't have that notorious doubled ear, doubled die obverse. It does have a little bit of die wear. You can see the ridge ring right there, but that's not the real reason why that this coin sold. At first glance, you have this long line that goes all throughout the coin. Believe it or not, this is not damage. And the way that you can pick that up is where you see this line, you don't have the buildup of material that collects on either side of that anomaly. As you would expect with a scratch, you would just have a buildup of that copper plating being pushed side to side all throughout this. It's a strike through. It's struck through some sort of like thread or bristle or something to that effect. I think the seller had said like wire, but it's way too thin to be a wire, I would presume. But really cool catch by the seller. And because of that, this individual was able to sell this for $28.75. Not too shabby considering it's a pretty well circulated coin. And again, a lot of people have overlooked stuff like this. Make sure you are using suitable magnification. If you don't have any and you think you could do this all on your own, with your super sharp Superman X-ray vision, by all means, go ahead and do it. But if you need a nice, inexpensive magnifier, I have them down below in my description box. I have Amazon links. Go ahead and check some out. Again, they're affordable, and you want to try and be around 7 to 10 times power when you're looking at these. It's a very important tool. The next one that we have here is a 1925S Lincoln Wheat Cent. Now, what we have here on this coin, as you can see on the reverse, we have a little bit of a defective planchet. It could be, maybe, perhaps, a lamination. It could just, I don't know. It really remains to be seen. However, this coin ended up selling for $20. So a cool little $20 bill for this one. 25S is a quite tough date to find with this kind of strike on the reverse. A lot of what you do find will have just really mushy strikes on there, but this one seems to be a pretty decent coin with or without that little lamination peel right there. So there you go, $20 for this one. Now we have an extremely cool $1 bill here. This is a 1988 A Series $1 bill. Yeah, it's miscut. That's exactly what this one is. But in addition, you guys check out that serial number. This is what's classified as a high serial number. You have at least 4 leading 9s in the serial number. That's what makes this one kind of attractive. All right, it's toward the tail end of the KC block for this particular note. But yeah, it's miscut. You know, that's pretty easy to see. You can also see it on the reverse. The note appears to have been found really early on when these first came out. You can just tell from the condition. There's no folds whatsoever on this. It's just a really cool example. This one ended up selling to the tune of $101 with 39 bids. Lots of activity on this one, lots of interest. So make sure you're looking out for things like this. There's nearly not enough people going through straps of notes, which is a thing. People go through them to look for fancy serial numbers like this one, in addition to a myriad of various errors. How about a 1999 Lincoln Memorial Cent up next? Now, this is one of the more common dates, and you could say the same about 98 to 2001, to find an off-center struck Lincoln. All right, a lot of these were discovered in mint-sewn bags. Okay, it's one of the last dates that you're able to obtain mint-sewn bags. But yeah, quite a few of these were found in these bags. Here's one particular example. It's in pretty decent shape. It does have some remnants of a fingerprint on the obverse of the coin, but that's okay. This coin right here is widely collected in the community. There are people that collect off-center struck errors by date. All right, so this might be one that is needed for maybe the 90s, or possibly just a needed coin, you know, as it is for the collection. This one ended up selling for $13. All right, so again, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of money, but keep in mind, this is one of the more common dates to find off-center strikes. Now here's a really crisp example of a 1995 Lincoln Memorial Cent, and this is also the doubled die obverse coin. It's also referred to as the FS101 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. But go ahead and take a look at Liberty and the motto "In God We Trust." These are going to be kind of like your main points on the coin for this doubling. There's nothing really stronger beyond 1995 that quite to this level. Just a very strong example. These are still being found in circulation, as they are effectively one of the most common varieties to find out there today. This particular example in this condition sold for a really nice amount of money. $71.98 is what this one hammered at with 20 bids. We got more currency, and we actually have quite a bit of currency this week. Here's a 1974 $1 bill. And as you can see a partial impression or a whole impression of the reverse of the note on the front. Okay, they call this a back-to-front wet ink transfer. All right, it's a type of error where these notes are being printed on the 32 up subject sheet, and they're being printed in rapid succession. So when the sheets are being printed, they're being stacked on top of each other. The ink isn't necessarily dry at this point, so some of that transfers to the preceding sheets. And that's how you get this effect. Now, this is a full 100% wet ink offset transfer. We do have another one in this particular episode where it's a partial. You guys will get to see that. But something you're going to want to know about these to kind of gauge their legitimacy is that the secondary image on there is going to be mirrored. It's going to be reversed. All right. If you could read it as normal, where it says the United States of America, left to right, it's an obvious fake. The back of the note, crisp and clean. This thing was probably found again in a strap. Brand new during its time. This one ended up selling for $130 as a fixed buy it now listing. Now here's a really wild 1999 P Jefferson nickel. Yes, this one is a broad strike error. For those of you keeping track, this is one of my favorite errors. It's not particularly rare, but when you find one that is as centered as this one, they're quite attractive. Now this one, this particular example right here, well, again, was probably found very early on. There's very few of these that did circulate, but, when you went through a 1999 Jefferson nickel mint bag from the Federal Reserve Bank, that's where you're going to find these. These are not particularly scarce because, again, it is a 99. It is one of the more common dates of U.S. mint errors. This one ended up selling for $28.85. And you did catch a little bit of a glimpse of this one, 1954S. This one is a really nice, it looks like a BU type of grade of Lincoln wheat cent. And this one, you probably already see it. It has the good old BIE die chip, or BIE, which is cool. There was a lot of dates during the 50s and other dates as well, going all the way up. I think all the way up to like 2020, where you could find a BIE die chip. So that's just simply a die chip that's formed between the B and E and Liberty that, essentially looks like a letter I. And that's how it gets its namesake. But this die chip can form in between a combination of two letters in the word Liberty. BIE just so happens to be the more popularly collected one. This one ended up selling for $11.25 with 5 bids, and these are quite common, and that's why the price is being supported the way it is. These are not selling for hundreds of dollars unless you have like a very scarce date from like the 80s or 90s. Those typically sell for about $50 to $75. But this one right here, really sharp example. All right, so this is our most recent, newest, whatever you want to call it, piece of currency on the list. It's a 2006 $1 bill. At first glance, a note seems very crisp and clean. Looks like it's circulated very little, if any. Probably came out of a bank strap, of $100 worth of dollar bills. But boy, take a look at the back. Yeah, pretty crazy. So part of the third print was inadvertently laid out on the back of an already printed sheet. So it could very well have been done in error. Usually these are pulled out and then a star note put in its place. But wow, pretty crazy. And you only have a partial amount too. You only have the black ink from that third print being transferred on here during a third print or fourth printing. Rather, just a really crazy error. I think the last one of these that I've seen was on Lynn Knight currency auctions. That was, probably 6-7 years ago. It's been a while. But this one ended up selling for $287.26 with 58 bids. And I have a sneaky suspicion that this one will end up graded here in the near future. Here's another currency, 1981A. Now this one looks like it's circulated a little bit. You'll notice that it appears to be a miscut, but when you look at the third print, that overprint with the district seals and the serial numbers, those are all well within alignment for that particular note. It's the first print, the underprint, that is shifted way left. And then when you look on the back of the note, the second print on the reverse is perfectly centered. You have great margins, but take a look at that. This thing is circulated quite a bit. It's bought many cups of coffees during its time. This one right here ended up selling for $182 with 34 bids. Now, these have been found in newer notes as well. So don't just look at older stuff. Also look at the newer stuff because you can't find these on, say, like 2009s and 2017s. Well, this is the only picture the seller could muster. It did have, and good obverse picture, but it was way out of focus. I couldn't add that on here. 1960 large date. This is a D over D repunched mint mark. You can see the secondary D is north of the primary. This one is RPM number 13. And this one sold for $3.25 with 4 bids. Not a particularly great listing because the photos aren't that great, but the close-up looks pretty good. Here's another favorite variety of mine, 1953 D over D repunched mint mark on a Lincoln wheat scent. One of your telltale signs that you may have this variety is that the mint mark is directly south of the 5 in the date. It's not positioned centered between the 9 and 5, which is kind of crazy. But this one right here is a can't miss. You always want to look for these if you're going through older batches of wheat scents. You can see that the secondary D is a little bit west of the primary mint mark, and that's going to be your main feature on this particular RPM. This is also RPM number 1, by the way. This one sold for $13.95, or 94 cents rather. All right, how about a $10 bill? And like I had promised, here is a partial back-to-front wet ink transfer. This is on a 1988A $10 Federal Reserve note. This one, again, looks very crisp. I would, probably gather that this one was found in a brand new bank strap. But yeah, you can see that partial back-to-front wet ink transfer there on the right side of the note. I would say it's probably like maybe a 25% transfer. This one sold for $158.90, which is a really strong amount of money for a partial. There's a back in the note. You can kind of gauge a little bit more of the condition. There is a little bit of a soft corner, maybe a little bit of a fold right here, top right on the reverse. All right, so this is kind of like our first little update of brand new 2022 coins. So this was actually a full roll of the brand new Maya Angelou American Women quarters. All right, now this particular coin has a little bit of a mixed reaction. Some people are saying, well, why are they using that obverse? It's ugly and all that other stuff. Well, I can't believe I have to reiterate with a response, but you guys are aware. It's American Women's Series. This was the original submitted artwork from Laura Garden Frazier back in 1930, 31 or somewhere around there. So they added this as the obverse of the coin to help commemorate the American Women's Series by adding a truly marquee design that was conceptualized by one of the famous women artists of numismatics. So, these will certainly have their appeal. Whether or not an error is ever going to be found or a variety, these will be well collected. And this is a full $10 roll of brand new 2022s. These are indeed Philadelphia minted coins as well. And this one sold for $35. And looking at previous sales, there have been a number of these selling for between $30 and $40. It's actually quite a strong sale. There has been one reported sale of a full $500 face bank box about 2 weeks ago that ended up selling for $1,500, 3 times face, which isn't too bad considering the high denomination. Now, this is not a very good picture, but this is actually a 1985P Roosevelt dime. It's off-center by about 55%, and it's in pretty nice shape. Not your typical date that you would normally find of this type, but this one ended up selling for $44.25 with 10 bids. Again, that kind of strong sales price really helps support the rarity of this date. There are people that are collecting off-center struck Roosevelt dimes, and they need this date, so they're going to pay up for it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check and double check and then recheck your silver stacks. How about 64 rather, sorry about that, geez, 64D 64D. This is a Denver candy half dollar. This is 90% silver. You guys know this. Every fanboy and their mother are trying to search these out in half dollar rolls, and they're coming up really dry these days. But this one right here, the Denver's, believe it or not, has a lot more potential for doubled dies and RPMs. So make sure you know that. This particular example right here is FS102 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. It's also known as DDO number 7. Go ahead and check out the doubling there. That's TRU and trust, and then the 4 in the date. There you go. I didn't mean to do that. Hey, it's a Sunday night. What do you want me to do? But you can see the split here into 4. You can see the notch. But yeah, the motto, "In God We Trust," is all knotted up with all sorts of doubling. Just a very strong example of this. This one sold for $39.65. Condition of the coin is really just bulky 90% junk. So it's worth what, $6, $6.50. So trading this in for $40, it's a really good deal. So that's why I'm telling you to check out your silver. We don't talk about Canadian paper money ever. This is the first one here, 1973 $1 bill, up in the good old Canada land. But check that out. There's a really nice gutter fold. So the subject sheet had a wrinkle in there that was never stretched out before the print. So when it's printed over, and eventually sometime later on down the road, whether it's at the print facility for these notes or in circulation, someone will stretch a note out and stretch out that wrinkle, and this is what it looks like. Just an omission of print on that area. Pretty cool. Very dramatic error. You can even see it on the reverse. So obviously no one at the print facility stretched this out anywhere in the process. This one sold for $215.32 with 27 bids. Canadian banknote errors are quite scarce and they're very well collected. These generally sell for between 25 and 50% more than its U.S. counterpart. Here's the 53, I believe, D. This is a Denver minted Lincoln wheat cent with some lamination issues on the obverse, and you even have a attached lamination right here. Right here. You can see just a piece of it, but all the other stuff has fallen off at some point. This one ended up selling for $26 with 6 bids. Really nice. And there's a little bit of a secondary image with a piece of card or paper that's right underneath that little lamination piece that's still attached. Pretty cool effect here. Just be careful with it because these things will fall off with very little effort. Alright, so this is not a pretty coin, but this is a 1999p Roosevelt dime. This is an uncentered broad strike. Again, not a pretty example, but it's one you don't see every day of this particular denomination. It's easier to find 99p Lincoln cents and nickels with this particular anomaly on there, but in a dime, quite scarce. This one sold for $10. And again, the coin's not in great shape. It's got a lot of condition issues on there. And here's the 2021p. This is actually a pretty neat error coin here. Jefferson nickel. I mean, coin's in really nice shape. You really don't know what to look at unless you have that magnifier. But check this out. You can see a raised area here, this line that goes to the left of the eye here. But what that is that's a die dent. Something had fallen on the die to create that indentation on the working die before it produced these coins. So this is actually going to be raised on the coin. Always check these out. They seem to occur on not only the obverse, but the reverse as well, going through Monticello. Those are common occurrences. Now, this particular seller had a number of these for sale, and he or she sold a number of them, probably about 7 or 8 of them, to the tune of $5.69 a piece. Here's a 1988 Lincoln Memorial cent. It looks a little bit off-center, but we also have a partial tilted collar on this. You can see the stepped edge right here, which is quite common. So the collar that holds in the planchet before the strike and during the striking process wasn't fully engaged. It was a little bit tilted, so you had one area that that didn't hold on to the coin very well. So it'll create this particular edge anomaly on there. This one sold for $12.24. And Ike dollar errors, quite scarce again. We have another great example here, this time on a 71D. Very nice mint state condition coin with, count them, 1, 2, 3 curved clips on there. Now this one here by TY and Liberty is a lot more stronger. You also have this one here between the B and E, and then this one over here to the right of the date. All in all, I mean, it's on the Denver coin, and people say Denver struck minted coins are much higher quality than anything else. This one kind of sets a trend the other way. Very nice coin. This one sold for $72.50, whereas the same error on maybe like a quarter is worth maybe a third of that. So just something to keep in mind. Don't overlook these, even in much more circulated condition. These are still quite valuable. All right, boys and girls, this is the one we've been waiting for. Now, believe it or not, the crown die chips on the Washington crossing the Delaware quarters has been just a huge topic of conversation last year. All right, the poor old Denver struck coins never really got any sort of accolades. It was always the Philadelphia minted examples where you can find this crown die chip right on top of Washington's head on the reverse. All right, but here we go. This is a Denver first reported example sold on eBay. Since I've been tracking these since about, last summer? This is kind of a big deal. So for you left coasters that live in California and anywhere west of the Mississippi, this is a great one to try and source out, seeing as how there's still a ton of 2021 Washington crossing the Delaware quarters. Now you know that this exists out there. Upon closer examination, it does have a right good sized chip, and again, it's something. And believe it or not, a really strong seller for this first example sold for $68 with 8 bids. So for about 2/3 of the country that still finds Denver minted coins all over the place, this is a big one. All right, I challenge you guys to go out there and look for this. Maybe you'll find a much more later stage event where the die chip is going to be a lot bigger, but this is a good one right here, guys. Now, we have a nice strike through here, but it's not just any strike through on this Jefferson nickel. This is actually a strike through late stage capped die. All right, so that's pretty evident there on the obverse of the coin. Just a really nice coin, and believe it or not, it looks like it's circulated a little bit. Some people will look at this and say, yeah, that's damaged. Maybe it's acid dipped or something like that. But when you have the pairing of this very, very weak obverse along with a just amazingly struck reverse, that's kind of like the key ingredients you're going to be looking for something like this. This one ended up selling for $73.50. That's a good amount of money for these. And here's our favorite P-minted Washington quarter. Some would say that this is either late 80s or early 90s, evidenced by the actual hair design. You have that just infamous, what we call spaghetti hair of the late 80s, early 90s. All the way up till, I would say, by the first year of the Statehood Quarter series. And, just the shape and size and type style of the mint mark, you have a lot of things going on here that help support kind of like a healthy date range, like late 80s to 1998. But yeah, pretty nice sizable cut die break right on the date. This is like a very weak spot on these particular quarters. This one ended up selling for $62.25 with 8 bids. That's a really good price for this. And again, the quarter has circulated. It's got nicks all over the place, and it's got wear and rub all over the highest points of the design. All right, how about a brand new quarter? Not entirely brand new. This thing's already 8 years old, but this is actually a 2014 D. Again, more Denver quarters getting some love. This is a Great Sand Dunes National Park quarter. As you can tell, it's got die rotation error. About clockwise, I would say 40 degrees. Again, the staple placement on this 2x2 helps kind of pin down exactly how much of a rotation this one has. Pretty neat event. You don't see these very often, but there's been a lot of really cool die rotation errors, or rotated dies, I guess. 1, 2, and 1/2 dozen to another. But this one right here, surprisingly sold for $64.64 with, was it 3 bids on this one? Again, if you have the patience to flip over each coin, you can find stuff like this and really cash in. Rotated die errors are not cheap in the marketplace. When someone does all the hard work and they find them, they're rewarded really well. Here's a 1940s era Lincoln wheat cent with a pretty sizable curved clip. All right, so that's what we got here. The coin's in pretty nice shape to boot. This one hammered at $14.50 with 4 bids. And we do have a couple of these either uncentered broad strike quarters or off-center struck quarters. Here's an 85p. This one is, it looks and appears to be more uncentered broad strike than an actual off-center strike. Pretty nice quarter. Again, this one has circulated quite a bit. It's not a beauty. It's not mid-state, I would think. It does have a few scratches as well in certain areas here, so it's not problem-free. This one sold for $24.30 with 21 bids. Lots of activity here. Now, this is more along the line of an off-center strike. This 83p Washington quarter is struck off-center by about 15%. And the coin's in really nice shape. This is a nice mid-state example of this date. Again, 83p, not rare. We've seen a few of these sell month in, month out in varying degrees of the spread, I guess. This particular example sold for $36.99. Now here's the big dog crown die chip on the Washington crossing the Delaware quarter. This is, of course, a 2021 P. We had already known that. Now, the quarter is not yellow or gold color. That's just really just yellowed lighting being used to take the pictures. The close-ups are lights out. They're crisp, they're clean, they look good. But the crown die chip is huge. This is the latest stage of this type, and it goes into E pluribus unum. This example, happy to say that they are still selling very strong for $143.50. There were actually 2 or 3 of these sold here in the last day or two. And then really the last final singular coin before we go ahead and kind of recap what's happening with the 2022 bank boxes. Now here's a unique one. This one is a kind of a crazy error. You have a Lincoln Memorial cent. It is bronze or copper or whatever you want to classify it as. Struck through a split cap die with a brockage. Late stage brockage. You could see the Lincoln Memorial all stretched out and large like a magnifying glass. And then you have this crazy split here that was actually on the cap die. All right, so yeah, the cap had a split in there, and it translates onto a struck coin as being this raised split. Pretty neat error. This one actually was sold by Indie Coin Dealer, also called Lost Dutchman, and they also have a podcast, the Coin Show podcast. A pretty cool group, a couple guys working there. This one ended up selling for $198.50. With 27 bids. Yeah, very active one. I wanted to put a bid in this, but I was on the road by the time it ended and missed out. This is just a really cool looking error. All right, so what's happening in the world of 2022 bank boxes? I will tell you this. I'm more than a little bit disappointed. I think because people feel like that they're holding on to the bag, they're going to do anything necessary to unload these. And they are short selling these bank boxes at a tremendous discount for being some of the first boxes to hit the internet. Let's go ahead and start it off with this one. Now, as you guys know, I actually placed a bid on this particular bank box. I really wanted it. This is a brand new 2022 P Jefferson nickel box. It's $100 face. This one ended up selling for $322 with 32 bids. something that kind of like maybe affected this particular listing in a negative way is that the seller only has 12 feedback. So when you have very low feedback, you're not going to maximize the full potential for this particular item. I had pegged and mentioned that this is something that could easily sell for between $400 and $600 for being the first confirmed box. But yeah, I mean, not a total letdown. I mean, over 3 times face is still pretty good. But again, when you're a new seller, expect to sell things a little bit more cheaply than what the market commands. But just a really cool searching opportunity here. Lots of possibilities of errors to be found on these Philadelphia minted coins. So this is a good one right here. Now, this is not the same listing. This is actually a second listing. Now, I am deeply disappointed in this particular listing. Now, some of you will say, well, that's the market. Well, you know, it could be, but this particular seller with 4 feedback had popped this one up on eBay for, guess what? $165 as a buy it now listing with free shipping. So what in the world was this guy thinking? All right. When one had just sold the previous day for over $300, this guy thought that this was a hot potato. But here's the news with these nickel boxes. They constantly sell for double face all year round. All right. So this individual really stunned the market with a $165 sale. But again, you know, 4 feedback. This is I don't know if he or she is a new seller, but this is really disappointing. I mean, you know, what's the net profit? What, $32, $35 after you figuring fees and shipping and all that great stuff. There's a lot of lost opportunity here with this one, and unfortunately, the market gets crushed by listings like this. This one I'm not too particularly proud of either. This is a 2022 P Lincoln Cent Shield Box, $25 face. This seller had 6 boxes of these. He or she posted them for $200 bin for the first 2022 Lincoln Shield sets. Yeah, I'm all funny right now because I'm like, damn, that's cheap to sell each and every single box for $200. Yeah, it seems like free easy tendies, but guys, I'm telling you, Lincoln Cent boxes are some of the most desired boxes when they first come out. And you had one seller knock 6 of them. He or she sold 6 of them in a matter of hours for $200 a pop. That tells you something. It means you gave them away. Yeah, 8 times face, still not bad, but with free shipping on every single one of these boxes, I mean, how much does that really leave you? Especially when you have, like, you know, there's been like 1 or 2 buyers that bought 2 boxes, 3 boxes. That's expensive shipping. And then when you go and do stuff like that, and then you're offering to pay for the shipping, and shipping turns out to be $40, $50, it's kind of a big deal. You guys have to really just slow your roll, take it easy, and post these boxes as traditional auction formats. 7 days, let it ride. These things typically sell for $400, $500, $600 like they do year in, year out. There's just no reason to give these things away at $200. Like I said, yeah, it's 8 times face, but first box is out to market, you give them away. You know, this person instead probably netted out profit-wise, if I had to guess, maybe $800, but, you know, at the same token, could have made $2,500 by, you know, trying to do it right. So congratulations to the seller. Yeah, you made a few easy tendies here, but again, completely annihilated the market. These things are probably not going to shoot to $500 because the first amounts of them did sell. But let's go ahead and end it off on this little gem. All right, this is actually a little mini box of Roosevelt dimes. This is a brand new 2022. These are Philadelphia's again. Nothing but Philadelphia's sold this week. $50, 10 rolls of Roosevelt dimes. This is the small NF String and Sons little bundle. I call them bundles at $50 face. And they sell these, or the banks offer these in all denominations, which I think is fabulous. I think these are neat. This one ended up selling for $115 shipped. All right, so the shipping's not too bad on this. Probably like $10 or less for a little $50 face. But yeah, just over double face is not too bad. Dimes are the least popular of the bunch. They're not as well collected as, say, quarters and nickels and pennies. But not too bad. It's cool to see things like this in the marketplace. You don't see them that often. I do have a couple Lincoln Cent mini boxes in much the same way. They're 2017s. And they're quite scarce. You don't see them that often. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to go ahead and do it for this edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. It was a pleasure talking to you tonight about some of the coolest coins that have sold on eBay within the last day or two. Hopefully you guys have a little incentive to go out there this coming week and finding your bit of treasure as well. There's a lot to find out there and a lot of ways to make money. But that's going to go ahead and do it, folks. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell. You know, the good old rules and drills. Thank you guys again for all your views and support. Coinaholics, we are discovering together each and every single day. I wish you guys a fantastic rest of your night. Stay tuned for the Monday Market Report coming up here. Well, Monday. So long.